June 6th, 1944. The world holds its breath. For years, Nazi Germany has ruled over Europe with an iron fist. From the beaches of France to the streets of Warsaw, tyranny seemed unstoppable. But now the tide is about to turn. In the cold gray waters of the English Channel, a vast armada waits. Over 5,000 ships, their decks crowded with men who know that the dawn might be their last. Above them, the rumble of engines fills the sky as paratroopers and gliders prepare to leap into darkness. Their mission? To strike at the very heart of Hitler's fortress Europe. Codenamed Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy is more than just another battle. It's the gamble of a generation. If it succeeds, Europe may be freed. If it fails, thousands will die, and the war may drag on for years. As midnight approaches, every soldier, sailor, and airman knows one thing. The fate of the free world now rests on their shoulders. The longest day is about to begin. Just before midnight, the silence above Normandy shatters. Hundreds of C-47 transport planes roar through the night sky, their wings flashing in the moonlight. Inside, the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions grip their rifles, waiting for the green light. They are the first Americans to enter occupied France, the tip of the spear for D-Day. Their orders are clear: secure the roads and bridges leading to Utah Beach before the main invasion begins. But fate has other plans. Thick clouds and deadly German flak rip through the formation, scattering the planes miles off course. Paratroopers leap into the dark, some into fields, others into flooded marshes, and many right into the arms of waiting German patrols. What should have been a precise operation becomes chaos. Yet, amid the confusion, small groups of men regroup, guided only by the flash of gunfire and the will to fight. By dawn, the town of Sainte-Mère-Église is liberated, the first French town freed on D-Day. Against impossible odds, the airborne have done it. They hold the roads, they hold the bridges, and soon, the sea itself will deliver the rest of the army. As dawn breaks over the gray horizon, the sea boils with movement. Wave after wave of landing craft surge toward the French coast. The target? Utah Beach. On board are men of the 4th Infantry Division, cold, soaked, and silent. They know that behind those dunes, the German guns are waiting. At 6:30 a.m., the first ramps drop. Soldiers charge into waist-deep water under the scream of artillery and the crack of machine gun fire. But something is off. The tide and wind have dragged them nearly 1.5 kilometers south of their intended landing zone. They've landed in the wrong place. Yet sometimes, fortune favors the lost. The new sector is lightly defended, and the surprised Germans can't react fast enough. Despite scattered mines and sporadic fire, the Americans push inland. Linking up with paratroopers of the 101s have already silenced the nearby batteries. By noon, the beach is secure. By nightfall, the Americans have advanced 10 kilometers inland with minimal losses. Only 197 casualties. Through a mix of planning, courage, and sheer luck, Utah Beach becomes the day's first true success. The door to Normandy has been kicked open. Just 15 kilometers east of Utah, the sea crashes against towering cliffs of gray limestone. There, a force of 225 men from the 2nd Ranger Battalion, led by Lieutenant Colonel James Rudder, faces one of the most impossible missions of D-Day. Their orders? Scale these 30-meter cliffs, destroy the German artillery above, and silence the guns that could tear Utah and Omaha apart. But from the moment they approach the shore, everything goes wrong. Strong currents delay their landing. The Germans spot them. As the ramps drop, the cliffs erupt in a storm of bullets, grenades, and even rocks hurled from above. Still, the Rangers climb, clawing their way upward on ropes slick with seawater and blood. By 7:30 a.m., the first men reach the top, only to find a lunar landscape of craters and the guns missing. For a moment, they fear they've died for nothing. Then, a patrol discovers the artillery hidden nearby, still intact. Within minutes, the Rangers destroy the weapons with grenades and thermite charges. Cut off and surrounded, they dig in, waiting for relief. They had come to hell and refused to die there. East of Point du Hoc lies Omaha Beach, 8 kilometers of sand and death. As the sun rises, the tide reveals the hidden teeth of Hitler's Atlantic Wall. Rows of mines, steel obstacles, and barbed wire. Behind them, German machine guns peer from concrete bunkers high in the bluffs, ready to slaughter anything that moves. At 6:30 a.m., the first landing craft open their ramps, and hell explodes. Bullets slice through the water, shells churn the surf into red foam, whole platoons vanish within minutes. The sea turns crimson as men stumble forward, dragging wounded comrades toward the thin line of shingle that offers no cover. Worse still, the tanks meant to lead the assault never arrive. Most have sunk in the rough waves. Every plan collapses. Omaha becomes a killing ground. Yet, amid the chaos, fragments of units begin to move. Small groups crawl through smoke and carnage, blowing gaps in wire, scaling the bluffs under fire. Naval destroyers, ignoring orders, steam dangerously close to shore and unleash point-blank barrages on German strongpoints. By day's end, against all odds, the Americans claw their way off the beach. Omaha is taken, but at a cost of over 4,000 men. The sand of Normandy has been paid for. In blood. By mid-morning, Omaha Beach is a nightmare. Smoke drifts over burning landing craft. Bodies lie tangled in the surf. Commanders can barely communicate, radios are dead, and every inch of sand is under fire. It seems the invasion might collapse right here, on the first day. But amid the chaos, leadership and grit begin to take hold. At Dog White Sector, General Norman Cota rallies the shattered men of the 29th Division. "Rangers, lead the way," he shouts, charging forward through a gap in the wire. Nearby, Lieutenant Jimmy Monteith of the 1st Division guides tanks and men up a deadly draw, silencing the German positions one by one. Above the beach, small squads crawl through the smoke, flanking bunkers, tossing grenades through narrow slits. Behind them, U.S. Navy destroyers risk grounding themselves, moving within 800 meters of shore to blast the cliffs point blank. The tide, both literal and figurative, begins to turn. By afternoon, the Americans finally reach the top of the bluffs. Exhausted, bloodied, but unbroken. They have survived the worst that Omaha could give. The cost is unimaginable, but the beachhead holds. The Allies now have their foothold, and the road to France lies open. As the sun sinks beyond the channel, the guns of Normandy fall silent, for the first time that day. The beaches that had roared with chaos now glow faintly under the smoke-filled twilight. The sand is littered with wreckage, twisted metal, shattered helmets, and the fallen who bought this ground with their lives. Across the 5 landing zones, Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword, the Allies count the cost and the miracle. Over 150,000 men have come ashore. The line holds. The Germans, stunned and disorganized, have failed to throw them back into the sea. In the hedgerows beyond the coast, paratroopers dig foxholes and light no fires. The men are exhausted, wet, cold, and hungry, but they've done what once seemed impossible. On the horizon, the fires of Normandy burn bright, marking the birth of a new front in Europe. As night falls, a whisper passes through the ranks. We're in France, and we're staying. D-Day has ended, not in victory alone, but in survival. The cost is heavy, but the path to liberate Europe has begun. Tomorrow, the long march inland begins, and with it, the fate of a continent. At dawn on June 7, 1944, the Germans strike back. From the ruins of towns and hedgerows east of the beaches, the rumble of engines echoes across Normandy. The 21st Panzer Division, the only armored force near the coast, launches a desperate counterattack toward Caen, the key to the eastern flank of the invasion. Columns of panzers roll forward, their tracks grinding through the orchards. The Luftwaffe, though battered, swoops in low, strafing Allied convoys. For a moment, it seems the Germans might succeed. British troops near Sword Beach are pushed to the edge. But the Allies are ready. Naval guns from offshore unleash thunder, smashing tanks and scattering infantry. Overhead, hundreds of Spitfires and Typhoons dive in, turning the fields into firestorms. The German counterattack stalls, then breaks apart under relentless bombardment. By nightfall, the British still hold the line. Though Caen remains a fortress in German hands, the price is high, the progress slow. Normandy has become a grinding battle of attrition, one measured not in miles, but in blood and endurance. The Germans have lost their chance to drive the Allies into the sea. Now the fight for France will be fought inch by inch. After the beaches are secured, the war in Normandy changes. Gone are the wide sands and open skies. Ahead lies the bocage, a twisted maze of narrow lanes, sunken roads, and high hedgerows thick with centuries of growth. It is beautiful countryside and a perfect fortress. For the Americans pushing inland from Utah and Omaha, every field becomes a trap. German panzer grenadiers and snipers hide behind every hedge, their machine guns covering every approach. Artillery rains down without warning. Progress is measured not in kilometers, but in meters. And in lives. Tanks can barely move, their turrets can't see over the hedgerows. So the GIs adapt. Engineers weld steel blades from destroyed obstacles to the fronts of Sherman tanks, turning them into rhino tanks that plow straight through the bocage. Slowly, brutally, the lines begin to shift. Each village, Carentan, St. Lo, Coutances, becomes a name etched in blood. The heat, the stench, the exhaustion, unbearable. But the men push on, knowing what waits beyond Normandy. The bocage is breaking, and once it does, nothing will stop the Allies from pouring into France. By late July 1944, the battle for Normandy has ground on for nearly 2 months. The countryside is shattered, the air thick with smoke and dust. But at last, the Americans prepare to break free. The plan is codenamed Operation Cobra, a massive, concentrated strike to punch a hole through the German lines near Saint-Lô. On July 25th, the sky itself becomes a weapon. Nearly 3,000 Allied bombers blanket the front with high explosives, turning German defenses into a storm of fire and steel. Then, through the smoke, the U.S. 1st and 2nd Armored Divisions surge forward. The exhausted Wehrmacht cannot hold. The line collapses. Columns of American tanks pour through the gap, racing south and west. Town after town falls. Within days, Avranches is captured, and the Allies finally burst out of the deadly bocage. What began as a beachhead now becomes a tidal wave. By August, German forces are surrounded in the Falaise pocket, their army in France shattered. From Normandy's blood-soaked fields, the road to Paris and to victory now lies wide open. D-Day was the beginning. Operation Cobra made liberation unstoppable. As the smoke of Normandy finally began to fade, Europe stood at the dawn of liberation. What began on the stormy beaches of June 6th had grown into a tide unstoppable, driven by courage, sacrifice, and the unyielding hope of millions who dreamed of freedom. From the shattered cliffs of Pointe-du-Hoc to the jubilant streets of Paris, the men who fought there turned the course of history. D-Day was more than an invasion. It was the rebirth of a continent. The day the world took its first breath toward victory.